Today, we're going to talk about the top locations that we've wanted to stay longer as a digital nomad, but for whatever reason, we couldn't, had travel plans, ran out of our lease at an Airbnb and had to leave, but kind of regretted it. And then we're going to talk about places that we went to, thought it was going to be good, and we're like, I wish this lease would have expired way, way, way faster than it did. I've got one place immediately in mind, but we're going to do these in order, right? So, Marissa, let's start with the list of places. We'll go one and one. You give me your first list of a place where you would have had rather stayed longer, and then maybe tell me like why it was so good, and also why'd you have to leave?
Yeah. So my first one actually was before I was fully nomadic. So to me, this really sparks the reason I became a digital nomad so that I could have the choice to stay longer. So this is my only one that I wasn't quite nomadic yet. However, it was during a 2-month sabbatical that I took while I was working at Pepsi. Before I moved from New York to LA, I took a little time. I traveled to where did I do? I was in Israel, Turkey, Greece, Brazil, Peru, Costa Rica. I was kind of all over, and it really sparked the travel bug. So it was sort of nomadic, but it was before my like full remote work. So I just want to preface with that. But I went with my boyfriend at the time met me to Brazil, and we went for the World Cup. So we were limited by a little bit of time in this country because I think we had plans to go to Peru afterwards, and also by World Cup plans. So he was a big soccer fan. It was just a fun place to go. I had never been to Brazil. I don't think he had either. And so there was a soccer game in it was a town a little bit in the north called, or not fully in the north, but in Brazil called Natal, I believe it was. And it was the first US soccer game that we could go to go watch. He was a big fan. But because we booked it super last minute, it wasn't far in advance plan. It was very spur of the moment to go to Brazil, go to the World Cup. I could barely get a visa in time. And so all the accommodations around this arena and this place in this town were completely full. So my boyfriend at the time found this little beach town. He was like, well, an hour away, and both of us love the beach so much. Hence the name of this podcast as well, Beach Commute. It was this little beach town an hour away. So he was like, well, why don't we just stay there for 2 nights and then we'll just drive to the game. We'll come back. We had a car or whatever. So it was in this town called Pipa, Brazil, which Wi-Fi Tribe has actually
P-I-P-A?
P-I-P-A.
I saw that on the list.
Yeah. So this was back in 2014, I think. So it was 11 years ago. Wi-Fi Tribe has since done, I think they just did one chapter there since, but it's sort of I would not say it's a digital nomad hotspot yet at all, but it's just starting to maybe even be a little bit on the radar, the outskirts of the radar. But I was obsessed with this town. We got there and it's a small walkable town. We stayed in this awesome, they're called guest houses, but it just it felt like the person who owned it was just lovely. You could walk everywhere. Everyone was also there for the World Cup, so it kind of had this fun environment. Everyone was dressed in Brazil jerseys, on the beach, watching soccer games. But what I loved about it, I think even without all of that there was this, so the stretch of beach is awesome. There was this cove called Dolphin Cove, and you could go, there was just always dolphins there. I don't know why. I don't know why. They're naturally in the wild. So you would go swim in this cove, and there would just be dolphins would swim beneath you, jump around you. I was like, what is this magic? And then at low tide, you could drive in this kind of not quite a 4-wheeler, but a dune buggy sort of vehicle. And you could drive across this little sandbar at low tide to this deserted island that was just the most, there was a lagoon. There was one bar there on this lagoon, but you could go in the beach, you could go in this lagoon, you could drive this dune buggy through sand dunes. It just was probably one of the first places I traveled to that just felt like pure beach magic in a place that was not just a typical beach, Mexico spring break in high school, And we were only there for 2 days, one of which we were kind of gone for the day for the game. And I was please don't make, I left kicking and screaming, not actually. But it was the very first time ever I remember talking to my partner there being like, can we stay longer? And we were young. We were probably, I don't know, 25, something like that. So, didn't have a ton of money. And we had paid for our, we'd set up our accommodations because it was the World Cup, you had to. So we had accommodations set up. I think we were heading to Rio. We had to drive. I can't remember. Maybe we even flew. I don't remember. But I remember having this conversation where he was like, I mean, I guess we could like pay and change things, but it's going to cost all this money. Like, do you really? I was like, I guess not. But I just remember my heart feeling so sad leaving this little town. It was the first time I really had that feeling of like, why can't I just, I don't want to leave. Like, aside from just, being on like a spring break trip or a beach trip where you just don't want to go home to work. But this is one where I really was just like, I don't want to leave this place. Like, it feels so magical. So that's my first one.
Why are they not doing more chapters there? It sounds like an amazing place.
I bet they will. They did one. I think it went really well. I don't know if I know anyone who is on it. I imagine they'll go back. It might be on the schedule to go back. I have no idea actually, but it's an awesome little, like I'm trying to think of what it's the equivalent of. It's kind of where, from my understanding when I was there, a lot of Brazilians go there to vacation in this little town. So there was like no tourists at the time. Everybody was very local. I don't know if it's changed a lot since. That was a lot of years ago. Maybe it's a little more touristy. I've heard of it a little more from other people, but yeah, it just felt like it was like we found the locals beach vacation kind of accidentally, and it was just this magic small little beach town. It was so cool.
So if you're looking it up, it's actually called Pipa Beach, right? This is the name of the area.
Yes.
I actually don't see anything listed as like a city of Pipa.
Really?
It just says Pipa
Yeah.
Beach. That's it.
No, I found it.
Oh, that looks
No,
amazing.
it's called Pipa. It says like Tibau
nice.
do Sul, state of Rio Grande.
Okay. That looks
Yeah, but
amazing.
it's Pipa Beach is the beach there. Yeah, do a little Google image search.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's very like palm tree, tropical.
That's very you.
Very me. Yes, if I could like build a little town, it's very much me. So it's, yeah, I don't know how it's changed, but I just remember the feeling there being like, this place, this is it. Don't
Permanent
take me out of here.
population of 5,000 people. Touristy, rustic. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Right
And
up my alley. Do they have, I imagine they've got Starlink there now, right? So you could digital nomad.
Probably. Oh, you can definitely
mostly?
nomad there now. I mean, there was a whole chapter there,
okay.
so you definitely can. It just hasn't taken
Yeah,
off.
but Wi-Fi magic, so you never know what he's doing.
This is true. Yeah, I can't speak to the
mesh.
Wi-Fi there now. I don't know. But yeah, it's a magical place. And Brazil, I think, it's such a huge country. I feel like there's so much more to explore there. But when I was there, I know Rio feels much more dangerous to people. There's more, just crime, theft, all of that. But this place felt like, and again, I can't speak to it today, but it just was like, I could walk around barefoot. No one's going to do anything. No one's going to take anything. It just felt like a chill little beach town, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't
so
think about Brazil. It's been a while. Yeah. So what was your first one?
I still haven't been. Yeah, I still haven't been. It's got to go on the list. It's ridiculous.
I think
there was
it, yeah.
nothing that's been named to me sounded appealing except for this. This actually sounds like something. So I don't really want to do Carnival. I don't like enormous cities like that. That's that crazy and
I
bustling.
didn't love Rio. It was also, I was there during the World Cup, so it was like Rio on steroids.
Extra.
It was insane. But I was like, get me out of here. But I loved, there's a couple little beach towns there that I think are pretty amazing.
Oh, speaking of which, we've got Semana Santa here this next week in Puerto
It's
Escondido.
gonna be busy.
You're just gonna hide, and I'm gonna hide inside. It's too much. It's gonna be chaos out there.
Yeah, Jeff's in Puerto Escondido in Mexico right now, if you're new and listening.
So for mine, I would pick Brasov in Romania.
Of course.
I love that city so much. It's, because I do want in this list to include those, super rustic, hobbity feeling, like cozy places, but I couldn't include Belgium because I thought the agreement was we don't do places that weren't digital nomad. I didn't put that one on the list.
I cheated. Just my first one. All my other ones are full-on nomad, but it was sabbatical-ish. It was
probably better off because you couldn't really digital nomad in Belgium on a decent amount of money anyways, so it's probably better off. But yeah, Brasov I loved, and I'd only spent maybe a week and a half there, and I could have spent more. For me, it was the perfect combination of enough stuff to do. You've got the Dracula village, you've got a whole bunch of stuff all around there. I mean, it is a ski town, so technically you could stay
mountains,
late.
the hiking.
And there's a mountain to climb. We climbed the mountain, and that was really nice. And there's, just really nice coffee shops and everything. And I don't know. There's no other way to put it other than I just really liked that vibe there. It just felt really cozy to me. And it felt just big enough, like the old town, Brasov. I think you walked the whole thing in maybe end to end, maybe 30 minutes or so. I didn't even go to the new town area. I don't care. I don't want to see new buildings or anything like that. I wanted to see
I
that
don't even
old.
think I realized there was a new
There
town.
was, yeah.
Huh.
That's where the most of the population is. Like the place where we stayed is kind of small.
Right.
But
It's
they've
such
got a
a
bunch of
cute,
new
it felt like
developments
a
outside of
fake
it.
little town. Like if you could build a fake little Christmas kind of cozy
Yeah.
village with all the little shops
Hmm.
and cobblestone streets. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't want to stay forever. It's not my place, but I can see, I know you loved it there.
Yeah. If you could build like a Christmas market and turn it into a whole city, it's like
Yes, that's
it's
Brasov.
Brasov.
And that's spelled Brasov for anyone listening in Romania.
Yeah. It's got the weird little S on it. You know what's
Yeah.
kind of cool about the Romanian spelling is the accents tell you exactly how to pronounce that letter. So if it has that little thing above it, you just add an H to it. So if it doesn't, you
Oh,
don't use it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It does
okay.
it with
I
all
didn't
the
realize
accents.
that. I thought you had stayed there for longer. You were only there a week and a half?
No,
Or
because
did you
I
go back a
left
second time?
I left to go on my own little side quest in Prague for a week,
Okay.
which we talked about. So I missed a big chunk of it when the whole crew was there. But it was
Okay.
the only
So
downside is
you,
you have to eat by 7 p.m. because everything shuts.
yeah,
That was
little small
annoying.
town. I like it. I
Very
like to eat
annoying.
early. But you would stay there for much longer?
Maybe not much, but I would have wanted a month. And I think I only got like a week and a half or so.
I did 2 days
So,
and it was perfectly enough for me.
yeah, well, it's old. So,
All right.
next
Anything
one.
else
What do you
fun?
got?
All right. Next one for me is a place called Weligama in Sri Lanka. So this was one I just loved Sri Lanka. It is like everything I like. I love the kind of like Asian beachy sort of feel. It is just like low key. It was like a little surf town. Has like tons of these like beginner wave surfers. Just beaches stretch for miles. Amazing food. Sri Lankan people are amazing. But there's just a magic to that land there in a way that I can't explain. And I just fucking loved it. So I was in Sri Lanka for about a month. We stayed in two different places. We're in Weligama for I think about 2 weeks, maybe close to 3 weeks. I can't remember. And then we went on one last little adventure through. There's this train you can take in Sri Lanka that you got to go from one town to the other through these like rice fields, jungle, palm trees. It's really cool. But we wanted to do that before we left. And I was with our friends Danielle and Rachel. And Danielle just we were going to Japan. I didn't end up going. That was when my grandmother ended up passing away. But we were supposed to go to Japan and had like a set time. And for some reason, Danielle really had her heart set on going hiking in Nepal, like near Everest, base camp, all of that. And it was one of those things where I was like, I really don't want to leave Sri Lanka, but I also, when else am I going to go to Nepal, like hiking with you? So I was like, you know what? I'm in, I'm down. But it was another one where I left that beach. Like we went to the jungle to do the train and then on the way to the airport to leave. And I was just like, wanted to be kicking and screaming. Like I was pouting that day. Like I don't, and I'm not actually, and they know me well and they love the beaches too. But I was just like, guys, like, why are we leaving this beach? Why am I going to the jungle? Why am I going to the mountains? Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave this place. So I would go back there to heartbeat. I feel like I wish it wasn't just time zone wise. It's a little bit trickier to work if you're like trying to be on calls and stuff. It's like opposite of US time zone pretty much. I think it's like 11 hours difference or something. So it was tricky, but just the quality of life there. My body felt so healthy there. There's something, I don't know if it was like the food, the magic of the land, or just like I would start because I would work later in the afternoons and evenings. I would get up in the morning, like walk the beach for 2 hours, sit in the ocean and meditate. There was like nobody around. I just like the quality of life there was good. And we stayed in a cool place. I was with good people. There was a lot of people around. I don't know, just so good. And I would go back. I could stay there for many, many months on end.
Time to buy?
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't, I feel
Yeah.
like it's just so hard to be. I don't think I'd want to spend most of my year in Asia just as like more of a permanent base just because it's harder to talk to family. You can't bop
Yeah, time
home
zone.
but if Sri Lanka was like where Mexico is or Costa Rica, like if it was like Central America and in a second, like that is where I would choose. I loved it.
That's a
But
good
I'll go
one.
back to visit.
Yeah.
I would spend more months. I would spend some months here and there for sure.
Okay, tell me when. I just need an excuse.
Oh, yeah, we need to go. I need to go back. I'm in. You tell me. All right.
You got it.
That's Sri Lanka. You'd love it. What's next on your list?
Okay, my next one is a tiny little beach town called Palomino in Colombia.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think I mentioned it before. We just kind of stumbled on it on accident as we rented a car. We went past. This is the northern part of Colombia, everybody. So you go up to Santa Marta, I think is the closest place you can fly into, or Cartagena, and then you just follow along the road along the coast, and it's a beautiful coast drive. And then you go past the Tayrona National Park, which is just this heavy woods area where you can like literally rent a horse and walk from one end to the other and end up at the beach. For some reason, it's very popular. I don't get it. I mean, I'm
Tayrona?
surrounded with national forests in California, so I'm like, okay, it's
Yeah.
great, trees, whatever. For
But
me, I was like, okay,
the
just get me
palm
out of.
leaves there are so big and so low. They're really cool.
Yeah, it's prehistoric looking. It's pretty cool.
And it kind of
So,
has those Seychelles type of like boulders by the beach sometimes. It's
uh-huh.
got some cool, funky, like,
There's
I
stuff.
get it.
It's got some stuff. It's got some things.
It's got some stuff.
Yeah. So we had a couple days to kill because we were already way out there renting a car. It's kind of a long drive, and we just went to this random beach town. It's a full blown, hippie town. It's not even close to digital nomad yet. It's just this side of backpacker. It's like hippie backpacker, no paved roads. Like not only not paved, the paved roads. They're like the shittiest dirt roads ever, and they're all tuk-tuks. You just get everywhere on a tuk-tuk or you're walking. And it's your vibe because everything is just like lined up on the beach with these just palapas and tiki bars and people hanging out and just having a good time. And then you've got the perfect sunset location there. You're right on the Caribbean, so it's just coming down on the left. And it's just beautiful colors and everything. And yeah, it's just the vibe. And it was, I don't think at the time, this was 6 years ago, so I don't think anybody's working there yet, but I'm sure. Shit, now with Starlink, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can go to any of these towns and they have Starlink now. It's the only thing that makes sense for them. So I'm sure you probably could work there. But it was really pretty. And we went out to a couple parties and we had they have locals that live up and I don't remember who they are, but they live up in the hills and they come down with all of the stuff that their trades, the things that they make. And they make these beautiful purses for women. You've probably seen these before, these Colombian purses that have like a single strap, and they've got this big, thick strap with the beautiful designs on it. I bought one of those for my mom. They came down with some random alcohol. It was always in a water bottle. I'm like, oh, God, 50-50. I'm going blind on this thing. Looks like it could start a tractor. And, of course, I drank that straight out of the water bottle. And, yeah, it was fun because you get the mixing of cultures, and it's not overrun. You got to work hard to get there, and most people don't even know what it is. So, like, the people who are there are, like, travelers, not vacationers. So
yeah, it's like a
that's
4
the
to
change of the
5
vibe,
hour drive from Cartagena. It's kind of the best, or at
Is
least
that how far it is? 5 hours?
yeah, to drive from there. I
Oh,
guess you can fly to Santa Marta
wow.
now, so it's like a little bit closer from there. But it's
How
a
much
hike.
closer is it? Yeah, I remember driving for a while, but I
I
always
think
have to
so.
be the
My friend
goddamn
and
driver.
I
Nobody else drives.
drove, and it took us forever on the car rental place. And maybe we were moving slow that morning, but it was like we were two girls. It was a while ago. We were younger, and people told us they were like, "Whatever you do, just like don't get there in the dark. Just get there while it's still light out. It's so much safer." We're like, "Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah." And
Cartagena?
no, from Cartagena driving to like right before Palomino, but like to Tayrona area, and it was like pitch
Okay.
black. We didn't have cell service. It was like a miracle we found the hotel we were staying at. It was like down a dirt road, and it just felt like one of those places where like we're gonna get murdered. Like, hopefully
Huh.
this is okay, but
So
all ended
you
up
weren't
well.
in Palomino? So were you in like, was it Calabozo?
We were in
Right
Tayrona
before?
right before.
Oh, you were in Tirana. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I didn't
Yeah,
quite make it. I think we
too
drove
far
one day to
past
like
that.
Palomino, just kind of saw it like by this river, but I didn't spend as much time there as you.
Oh, they do have river trips too. You get on floaties, and they'll just guide
Oh,
you down the
yes.
river all day long.
I
Pretty cool.
did that. Did you do that?
No.
And I say it with skepticism because looking back on it, I feel like so you're in those little inner tubes. It was me and my friend, and actually I had a family friend who was randomly there at the same time. So it was these 4 of us, him and his friend, we're going down the river and we're just in these little inner tubes. And he's like, look, there's a big alligator. I don't know, alligator, crocodile. I don't remember which was which. Just on the side of the bank, just like staring. And he was like, look how cool. It was giant. We're like, okay, like, is this safe? He's like, yeah, you're good. But like, how many other ones must have been just like in that river? And then on the way back up, we were coming back up and I was like walking through it. And he said afterwards, he was like, yeah, there was this giant snake I saw. He was like, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want to freak you guys out. But I was like, why were we in this river? Like, seemed like a good idea. I don't think it was.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think there's a whole lot of tight restrictions around that area.
Nothing. But it was beautiful. There was no one else doing it. Amazing. Just floating down the river on this amazing day. It ended up at the river went down to like opens up into the ocean and you're on this deserted beach with like it was epic, but looking back, it's one of those moments like, like, was that the smartest?
Maybe a little shady. Yeah, sure.
But it's cool. All right, that's a good one. Okay, so my last one of places I wanted to stay but didn't stay as long was, this one's kind of just a whole country, was Myanmar. It was magical. So it was kind of more my beginner nomad stint. I had spent 6 weeks in Bali, which I also didn't want to leave, but I had some other exciting things ahead. So I was like, okay, it's fine to go. I did another 6 weeks in Thailand. And then I think I was meeting a friend from home, was coming to meet me in the Philippines. I had like maybe 5 or 6 days in between when I was on a chapter with Wi-Fi Tribe in Thailand and Chiang Mai, in between that and when I had to be in the Philippines. So I convinced our friend Murray, who I think you've since met, our South African friend who was with me in Thailand. And I just really wanted to go to Myanmar. I'd heard a little bit about it. I didn't know anyone who had been before personally, but there was also like a genocide going on at the time. So you couldn't cross over like in the north and the border. So a lot of people just weren't going. And anyway, I convinced Murray to come with me. So we only had 5 days. And it was one of those things where typically, if you've listened to this podcast a long time, our number one travel rule as a digital nomad is book a one-way flight because you just never know, when and where you'll want to stay. But sometimes as you hear us talking, we just like, there's other things that come up or, you have a limited time. And that was one where we had just I think it was about 6 days or so. And we went to a couple different places. I felt like I did 3 months worth of travel in 6 days, but that country is fucking magical. I feel like, yeah, I still only know maybe like one other person who's ever even been, maybe two other people, but I didn't even there's a whole stretch of beaches that's sort of like, it's like if you went up the coast of Thailand on the beach on like the west side of the country, it just, it turns into Myanmar. And, I love the tropical beaches. I didn't even get to the beaches there. We were busy like going to temples and other cities and hiking through like some land there's this like place called Inle Lake. So we're hiking in this like mountainous lake region. Went to, if you Google, I think you've Googled this before and I talked about, but the old town of Bagan, Bagan, I believe it is. It's like all these pagodas, just thousands of them in these fields where it's like, what is this magic? And every place was just like more magical than the next.
That's
there.
Wild looking. It doesn't even look real.
It doesn't feel real. It was like, this is not real Earth. And then the place Inle Lake is Inle Lake. That was also, people live on this lake and there's these little, like no one has cars. They get around by boat, right?
So cool.
So cool. And you see like they have the fishermen that you kind of see like with their famous hats on still like posing in certain ways. You might recognize those.
They're on stilts. I was wondering what they're doing. Wow, you guys got to look that up. Inle Lake. That is so cool.
It's epic. And then I don't even remember like the main town that you fly into. There's like all these temples and like we took buses between. It was just, yeah. And then we hiked for 2 days just through like slept in a monastery on a floor of this like, one of those places in the middle of nowhere. There's like not really even electricity. There's like this monk reading my future. I was like, there's like little cats running around. I was like, I don't know.
The cats of Myanmar?
Obviously.
The jumping cat monastery?
Oh, wait, that's a thing?
Where it's number on the list that I just opened up.
No, didn't even know of this, but there were little kittens in the monastery where I was sleeping where there were monks. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I was sort of like a newer nomad and maybe just everything was magical to me at the time as well. And like, I love traveling with Murray. We've done a bunch of like trips together. It's just fun. So And so anyway, the point was I only had 6 days and like had to go. So it was just a sad moment. I feel like I just wanted to, we met some other cool people there who were traveling more, and I wanted to go explore the beaches, and I could have stayed there, I feel like, for so much longer exploring. And I was really more I was working like in between a lot of quick travel things. So I don't know what it would have been like to, I don't think there's not like digital nomad communities there. I think you'd want to go like with some friends, but I would for sure go back. And when people ask me my favorite countries, I'm like Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and then I love like Mexico, Costa Rica. Like all of those are up there, but it was one that I didn't have enough time. I would totally go back. It's so hard to get to, but yeah, I would go back in a heartbeat.
That's a good one. Okay, so I'm on to my last one,
Yep.
and that would be Potberg
What
in
is that?
South Africa.
I
It's
knew
the
you were
whale
gonna say
trail.
that. Part of the whale. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know it. It sounds like a South African name. I knew it was part of your whale trail. All right, tell our listeners about that.
Yes, the whale trail was a hut-to-hut hike for a week. So you just like bring in all your food, you bring in your whatever you need for your day bag, and you go on a full day hike. And most of your stuff comes with you. Like they'll cart it off in a box for you to the next hut. And the whole day you're just kind of walking and eating out of your bag. And then you, as a group, like I think it was 16 of us, something like that, we would cook and have dinners together. And there was no Wi-Fi for a whole week. And it was just you and nature. And I thought, okay, let's do it. My buddy messaged me on a Thursday, hey, do you want to go for a week-long hike on Friday? I was like, yeah. So did
Yes,
it.
I do.
And I mean, it was tiring, and I was done with it by the end. But I included in this list because it was hard to come back, because I was so like digital detoxed that I felt like it was going to be hard to get back into. It felt better than what we do on a daily basis. Just not looking at your phone, not on the computer all day, not inside, just walking, breathing good air in the sun. It's like, I feel like my body was in a better place at that time. And then I remember leaving there. I'm like, I am tired, but it's a shame that it's going to go back to, the real world and back to electronics and stuff. So that's a thing that I maybe not or a shame that I had to leave when I did have to leave, but something I would like more of. So maybe a slightly different category, but still the same kind of vein.
I love it. Yeah, it's very rare. I think one of the blessings and curses of digital nomad life is that you can work anywhere, and so you work everywhere. So whereas other people, I feel like, end up taking more vacations and really disconnect and take time off, we're just like, oh, I can work a couple hours. I'm here. I'll just work. I can work everywhere. Versus when you're in destinations like that, where it's like you don't really have Wi-Fi, or you're hiking, or you're disconnected in a different way, and it feels so good.
Yeah, and it's right there next to Cape Town, so you can do that as a digital nomad, absolutely, and you should. It's just one of
Yeah.
those advantages that, like, I would never fly to Cape Town on a vacation to go to Whale Trail and then fly and go back to Cape Town and then fly home. That's insane. Nobody would ever do that. But as a digital nomad, it's like, oh yeah, that's absolute no brainer. It's once in a lifetime.
Okay, so if you are listening to this and you're hearing all the fun places that Jeff and I have been, the places that we wanted to stay longer, and you wish that you had a fully remote job that gives you the freedom to stay in places that you discover and want to stay for weeks or months or years on end, make sure you are on our email list, beachcommute.com/email. We send out fully remote job listings each day, lots of other digital nomad travel tips to help you get a remote job. So yeah, check out beachcommute.com/email. And also, if you want to just view 300 companies that let you work from anywhere, you can go to beachcommute.com/atlas. All right. So for that one, I want to kick it back to you for number one of places you wanted to. So places you got to and wished you were leaving sooner or wanted to leave right away.
Can you guess what my number one is?
Is it Paraguay?
No, I didn't put it on the list.
I didn't either. I was like, wait, can I guess your would I know it? I don't know your number one then. Or I feel like, will I know
okay.
it when you say it?
I thought about Paraguay, but we didn't hate Paraguay. It was just blah. It was just
Yeah. It
nothing.
was neutral. And I had fun there.
It
with
wasn't.
You.
I had no qualms with Paraguay. It was just like, we'll never go back there. It's fine.
Wait, give me a hint? Would I know where you want to leave?
You would, yeah. It's
What
more work
continent?
related than it is location related, or rather, how nice the area is.
I can't. I have no
More
idea.
had to do with being a digital nomad there.
I have no idea.
It's Florence. Florence, Italy.
Oh, hard to get your work done there, Florence. Yes, because you
Yeah,
had no Wi-Fi and
whole
an
time.
Airbnb of giant cement and couldn't work.
Enormous cement
I should have
walls.
guessed
Yeah.
that one because you didn't hate that. It was so hard for you to work there.
No, I would go back there on vacation in a snap. It was amazing. Super, super beautiful. Amazing food. A lot of history. As a digital nomad, hell no. Hell no. You can't get your work done. I don't even know. I don't even know that Starlink would work there because it won't penetrate the
The old
3 foot
walls.
walls. Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
feel
just
like
not
other
good
people
as a
have
digital
have
nomad.
worked there and haven't had as much of a problem as
I
you
think they
did.
probably were like low call type of workers, maybe developers or something. Anybody that has a high volume of calls there, they're all stuffed into the cafes. And then the
That's
cafe's
funny.
internet would crash, and it was absolutely
I
miserable.
feel like I was talking over you while you said that, but for if you're listening and you didn't catch it, that was Florence, Italy for Jeff. So yeah, can you give the quick like nightmare of your work situation for someone who hasn't heard the story?
So the way it's designed is the infrastructure is so old that in order to change it and say lay fiber optic cables or something for good internet, you would have to, the streets are so narrow and so old, you have to shut down an entire main street for days and days and days. And nobody would be able to go anywhere. There's like very few routes in and out because it's all so tight. So they haven't done it. So what you're left with is pretty bad infrastructure. And so your internet connection wherever you're staying doesn't matter. We checked dozens of Airbnbs, all the same speed test is like 2 down. And for those of you who don't know, 2 down is it's not good for a call. It's almost
Not
impossible
workable.
to do with a
Yeah,
call.
it hardly
Yeah,
even loads Facebook. Like,
exactly. So we're like, okay, we're gonna get clever since what we'd like to do is hotspot to our phones. So our phones work outside. They don't work inside because all of the walls are like 1.5 meters thick of uranium or something, blocking everything. So we're like, okay, we could use the phones in theory if we're able to get the phones in an area where they could get satellite. So we created this we like built this really long pole attached to this canvas bag that we could extend out through this roof ceiling or this like skylight that we had in the third floor and just shot it out onto the roof and then connect our laptops to the phone tethered to roaming. And that worked a little bit for a while. So the only thing that actually worked consistently was if I booked a table in advance at a cafe that was about a 2.5 mile walk away. And I would just go there every day and hope that the noise wasn't too loud. And of course, it always was too loud because I was in Europe and I was taking, morning calls for them, and everybody was just having their aperitifs
evening.
in the
Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah, they're having their cocktails in the afternoon and getting loud. So it was just so miserable. I wish I could have enjoyed it without having to work because it is an amazing area. But God, that was just miserable.
It's hard to work. Yeah, and it's interesting,
So
like,
miserable.
again, the difference between nomad life versus just traveling. Because I've been to Florence was there maybe a week, a long, long time ago. And again, Europe's not my place, but it was, yeah, very pretty. And I feel like you can get to Tuscany outside and lots of day trips. And it's like if you like the sort of, not like medieval feel, but yeah, it has like all the architecture in the streets, or if you like that European feel, it's beautiful in theory. But yeah, working there, I know, was a nightmare for you.
Yeah, not my thing. I will go back there at some point, but I'm not going to work. Or I
Yeah.
just will not have calls. That's
Right.
fine.
There you go. Or maybe it's better now. Who knows? But yeah, maybe. Or if you're saying it's just the walls in general, can't get anything.
Could be.
All right.
Okay, what's your
so
first one?
First one on my list. Funny, as I'm looking at my list now, it's very clear. My first three were like tropical beach towns. So like not surprising. So obviously, I have a couple to choose from. I might switch it up. But my first one is obviously taking us to Europe. Can you guess mine? Actually, I'm curious if you'll guess where it was.
It was in Europe?
It's a little country. You might not even remember I was there.
I would say maybe, I'll say either Budapest or Bulgaria. Would be
Neither
my two
actually.
guesses.
They were fun. Of all of Europe, Budapest is like it's cool. I wouldn't want to stay forever, but it's neat to see. And Bulgaria, I actually loved Bulgaria because I was like out in nature in the forest and I was just like with good people. So yeah, I didn't even put that one, mostly because I was also with good people and like it
Yeah,
ended
yeah,
up
yeah.
being fine. Yeah, Romania is not. Bucharest is probably it's up there though. It's up in the ones where I'm like I would have been happy to leave. But my number one that made it on the list was Riga in Latvia, and it was at the end. So after we were in Romania, I went on that like kind of road trip, still working during the days, but moving kind of like a week in each location through, yeah, like through Budapest, through Burin, where Prague, and all sorts of places. And it got kind of, it was like starting to get into September, October, and it got a little colder by the time we got to Latvia. It was the last
Hmm.
of the countries on this road trip, and we had been traveling so fast. So we talk a lot on this podcast as well. If you're new, just it's easier as a when you're working full time to be in a place for a month is really ideal. At least a couple of weeks, so you're not like by the time you figure out where to shop, where to go to the gym, what to do, you're
Hmm.
already leaving. Like you don't really have time to like be and enjoy it and get your work done and explore. So anyway, we were moving very fast, and Latvia was sort of like the end of this road trip, and we were booking we were kind of going on the fly of like how many days here, or should we go there, let's go there. And so
Hmm.
we had booked probably just like 10 different Airbnbs. And so the last place we booked it super fast. It was also it was 2021, I think it was 2021, so it was
Oh
still
yeah,
sort
you're
of
right.
like the tail end of COVID, where there was weird
It
rules
was.
and
It
vaccines
was
and
the end of
all of that
2021.
stuff. So a lot of places there just I don't know why it was really hard to find a place to stay. So again, with all these countries, like I know people who actually really love Latvia. So, these are just our personal experiences and why we wanted to go. So the weather, but we booked this place. It was like the biggest place we could find because all the places seemed kind of like older. They were small. There was two of us working. And anyway, so we just were sort of scatterbrained and saw a place. I was like, yeah, book it. Like, didn't do good research, didn't really look at all the pictures well. And it was it was large, but it was this basement apartment that felt like we walked through like bomb shelter stairs to go into it. Like the bedroom was like through the living room, had zero windows, like zero,
Oh
zero.
God.
And there was one, I believe in all like the ghosts and spirits and stuff. We were sleeping in the middle of the night, and at like 1 a.m, the TV just like turns on, and it wasn't what we were watching before. It was like a weird
Oh
music
God.
and channel. I was with a boyfriend at the time. He thought someone had broken in. He like went in to be like how do I fight someone? Like what is going on? And it was just the TV that turned on. So we turned it off, go back to sleep. Like 20 minutes later, it comes back on, and I think afterwards he like unplugged it or something. But anyway, there was just some weird energy. It's very ghost like bomb shelter, very like
Mhm.
Soviet feeling. It was not my favorite place. And then with COVID rules, we weren't allowed like with certain. I think you had to have a certain European QR code for a vaccine that you'd had it was
Mhm.
to get into just to work from different cafes. So we had this horrible place, and then we couldn't go to cafes to work because they wouldn't let us in. And it was kind of
Mhm.
cold, so we couldn't really like spend time outside. I was like, I've never wanted to leave somewhere so much in my whole life. So that was top of the list for me.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
pretty
you fuck up
good.
as a digital nomad. And
Yeah.
that was one. I was just trying to get to, I wanted to see all these countries. And it's funny because my partner at the time had said, I think his grandmother had like spent some time there. I guess like a lot of Israelis go there. And he was like, there's all these spas there. It's like a cool place. We can do all that, And I was like, this is the worst place ever. He was like, I'm so sorry. So
Mm.
got out of there quickly. But I think we were stuck there. We'd booked like 5 days, and there just like wasn't really a better option to stay in. So it just was tried to make the best of it and left. It was rough.
All the worst traits of the things that you hate of Eastern
All
Europe.
of it.
Europe.
All of it. Just compounded on top. So
Uh, oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've never been to Latvia before.
I
I feel
wouldn't
like I'd probably
suggest
like
it.
it.
You probably would. You probably would. I'm sure maybe in the summer it's like a lot better. I'm sure it's cooler. It's all the yeah. Not my jam. You'd like it. I think you'd like Romania more, but I think you'd like Latvia.
Okay. Speaking of Romania, my next one is Cluj.
Oh, I love that you have one in Romania that you didn't want to leave and one you did
I
want to leave. Why'd you want to leave Cluj?
thought it was wildly unimpressive. Like
Really? I
it
don't
was
think I knew this.
so built up to me. Like, oh, Cluj is great. It's gonna be so much fun. The music festival's there. That's why we were all there. And it got built up quite a bit when I got there. It just felt commercial, and like the accommodations were not particularly good. It wasn't cheap. It was pretty expensive. Like not even close to anywhere else that I've been in Romania. So I'm kind of like, what do you get? What exactly is what is the draw here? It turns out, like, find out it's like a tech town, basically. Like, a lot of the college students come there. Well, they graduate from there and then they start working in tech. So that's why the money is there. They've got, all that talent actually just stays in Cluj. But it's not small like Brasov. And even in Bucharest, I felt like it was a little bit more neighborhoody. There's little areas that I liked that you could kind of section off and be like, okay, I like this little area. A lot of it's ugly as hell, but like some of the areas were like kind of cool. That park was really, really nice. That park that we walked around, beautiful park. It was gorgeous. And then near that area, there's some nice little coffee shops and stuff. And I found my little spots. In Cluj, it just felt, I don't know, cold, kind of dry, just kind of boring. And there's no charm to it. That's what it was missing. It was missing charm. No charm.
It's so interesting because when we were all going to Romania, the first time, so you went to Cluj, I think the second time you went to Romania, right?
Yeah, that was just for the music festival. We were only there for a little bit.
Yeah, the first time we were there, we were actually there at the same time as that music festival, but we had like booked late. We weren't going for it. And I remember we were thinking about staying in Cluj because we'd heard better things about it, that it was just more kind of charming, more rustic, a little more, that charm personality versus the buildings are not very pretty. It feels run down. It's a lot. But we didn't go because the Airbnb prices were just exorbitantly high that month because of the music festival. But we had been told, like, if you have the choice, go to Cluj over Bucharest. So it's interesting that you felt the other way. But I never made it there. So I
was total pass for me. Absolute pass. I'm curious what you would think. I mean, it just feels like a city. It just feels like a normal city. Like nothing unique about it to me.
My next one on the list of places I wanted to leave, and we actually did leave pretty quickly. So this one was in Uruguay, and this was in a little town called Montevideo. So we were in Buenos Aires for a Wi-Fi Tribe
the
chapter.
Hospital?
So I was living
or the orphanage.
Yes, we stayed. Yeah, a lot of these I should probably do where we stayed.
Yeah, the worst trip in history.
I love that we know each other's. The worst trip in history. I don't know. I think Latvia was worse, actually.
Trip.
But they were up. These might have been pretty. Oh, yes. It was weird. Yeah, it was bad. So we spent from Argentina. You can go across the river to Uruguay. Montevideo is like the closest little town. I've heard of a couple of people who enjoyed their time there. I did not. It didn't feel like there was much there to see. There was also, I know when we happened to be there, there was election. I think it was election day. So a lot of the stores and shops and restaurants, like alcohol, was closed. So a lot of people we were with were not happy for that. As Jeff just mentioned, we ended up staying. So we had a lot of people. I think there was maybe 15 of us or something, which is when you're trying to all stay together in one place, it's not always easy to find accommodations. And we found this Airbnb that looked cool, and we're like, amazing. I don't know. Someone else was booking it. I just said yes and went as you and I do. And it turned out that it was this, like, it felt like an abandoned, I think it actually used to be an orphanage, like really and truly. And it felt creepy. It was like I don't know. It just like gives me chills. It was dark. It was weird. It had weird energy. The town was very bland and boring. I think I actually booked an early ferry home. So we were, I don't remember if we were there for 2 nights.
Oh, wow.
I did. I left early. I think I actually paid additional to like buy a separate, like I already had my ferry ticket home at like late in the afternoon. Cause typically when we go on weekend trips, when you're with people, you leave Friday afternoon and you want to, come back Sunday night. So you have all day Saturday, all day Sunday to spend in a place. And I don't even remember who I was with, but we woke up first thing in that morning, walked straight to the ferry to see, we couldn't call them. We couldn't, whatever. I just went, we bought a new ticket for like the soonest one out. An hour later, I went, grabbed my stuff from this orphanage and went home. But it was, it was weird. It was bad. It was a strange vibe. It's a weird, just a group of people. Everything about it was just weird, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. So thankfully, I wasn't planning to be there for a month.
I've never heard anything good about it. Even people that went on a separate trip to Montevideo. Completely unrelated to this. Last year when we were in Argentina, they went there and they're like, it was hot. We had a mediocre lunch and came home. I was like, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there like, this is just a passport stamp. So.
Yeah, it really is. I wanted to, like, I was still
Hmm.
chasing countries at that time. So you get to Uruguay. I haven't really heard, like, nobody really travels in Uruguay. Like, no one stays there. Even in, I feel like every country, as a digital nomad, I feel like we hear of friends or someone like, somebody finds a country appealing and ends up there. I don't know anyone who's just like, yeah, like, let's go spend the month in
Hmm.
Uruguay. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but nobody's
Mm.
going there. And maybe it's for a reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
Sorry, Uruguay. I have nothing against you. I just, yeah, it
Paraguay, Uruguay,
wasn't my
sorry.
time there. Yeah, Paraguay definitely went there. Was also kind
Yeah.
of like,
Eh,
meh, no
that
one's
one was
there.
just, yeah, not much there. There's nothing to do. Burning fields.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. What's your number
My last one
three?
is Montreal, which I bet you didn't have on your bingo card for me. That
Oh,
was
I did
the
not. You were going through a
it
hard
was
time then.
yeah, no, that was
Wait,
post we call it ayahuasca and coming off antidepressants. And so I wasn't doing well because of the detox anyways. But the first week I'd say was good, but everything in Montreal is so tall that it's dark everywhere. You don't get natural sunlight into any building. And I was having zero sunlight and bad internet with lots of calls. And I was with a weird roommate at the time that I was traveling with. Charlie was acting weird and uncomfortable, probably because I was uncomfortable. My
this is
dog
Charlie's
and
Jeff's
tried
dog,
to
by the
thanks
way.
to like jump lunged at a mailman, and it was right at the end of October. And when it turns in Canada, it turns fast, and it got cold and dark really fucking quick. And I actually booked an earlier flight out because I didn't want to stay as long as we stayed. I just had it with that place. And there's nothing wrong with Montreal. Like the week I was there before when it was warm and it's a great place to be. Really, really cool places to hang out, good restaurants, good bars, everything. The people were nice enough. And yeah, it was generally good, but when it turned fast and I was like, I got to get out of here. I do not want to have any bit of this darkness that these people live in for 6 months a year. This just seems too miserable and too cold.
That's how I felt about Latvia
Hmm.
too. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't anticipate that for your choice, but it definitely makes sense. I remember your
Hmm.
time there. All right, mine. I have a couple of contenders. I was proud of myself for not choosing all three Europe. So I threw Uruguay, I got a little South America in there for my second one, but I'm going back to Europe. I have to for my third because everyone knows I don't love Europe. But my third on my list was Lithuania. I was in Vilnius in Lithuania. This was the same road trip that I was on through like a bunch of these countries in Europe. So that was right before
Hmm.
Latvia. And it was also, I think part of it was the weather as well. Like it was getting colder. It was getting into that. I think it was in
Mm.
October, so it was just like it was pretty dark. It was chilly. I feel like there's probably, if you love that sort of like autumn European feel, like there's people who would
Hmm.
love it. I think Lithuania has some charm. We have a couple of good travel friends from Lithuania. So Ruta was
Oh
actually
yeah.
there. I got to meet up with her. She's like the
She's
loveliest
great. Yeah.
person. So yeah, so she
Th-
showed us around, and it's really cool to
Thomas is
like,
from there too.
yeah, it's really Thomas. Yeah, he wasn't there. I think he was in Portugal when I happened to be there. I would have loved to see Thomas there too. But yeah, it's really fun. Like when you meet people traveling all over the world to then get to like experience their country with them is always really special. So Rucha like showed us
Mhm.
around and explained things to us, and we had some meals with her. So that was really nice. But still, as a whole, like Lithuania just kind of feels, it's that, I don't know, it's older Europe feel to me that I don't like. It was getting dark, the weather cold, just kind of all the things. I think if I'd been in there summer, it still wouldn't be my favorite place ever by any means, but I wouldn't have wanted to like run away in the way that I did like in Latvia and some of those places. So yeah, I feel like I was on a mission to just get to a lot of these countries and do it quickly, but the time of year didn't help, and they would never be my favorite countries. Like if I think about those compared to, I was talking about Sri Lanka and Myanmar, where I just feel like lit up and excited. These places, I'm like, I want to hide and run away. That's how I feel in all of those countries in Europe for the most part. So yeah, Vilnius and Lithuania was mine, and I think we only were there for a couple days anyway, and it was just quick on the way elsewhere. And again, the partner that I was with at the time, his grandmother, like he is of Lithuanian descent, but had never been. So it was like cool for him. It was special to be there and sort of like see where his family came from and all of that. So it had its moments, but ultimately it's not for me.
Yeah,
Not for
none of
me.
these are a surprise for me. Yeah,
That is it.
yeah. Unless you went there expecting something different. It's like, yeah, okay.
I did not. I did not. But I was grateful to leave. I could have left.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a day. I think we were only there maybe 2, 3 nights. I can't remember. I could have left after
Fine,
2
yeah.
hours there. I was like, great.
Well, the only
fun.
one that
There you go.
actually didn't hit you the wrong way was Prague, right? And Budapest. Yeah.
Yeah. Prague and Budapest. Yeah. I wouldn't want to live there for a year or anything like that. Or I could do a month if I had to, but they're not my favorite. But there's something a little magical about both of those places. There's like I don't know, it's got some like castle-y magic. It's dark, but it's pretty as well. It's got like, I don't know, there's something a little cool about those. But a week in both of those places tops for me is plenty.
All right. Well, that wraps up our list. If you want to write us in, it's hello@beachcommute.com. Write us in with any podcast suggestions. Often we'll turn them into individual podcasts for you. If you have any questions about any of these places, we've been to many, we'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, we will see you again next week.